Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, and welcome to today's webinar from our Build Your Career webinar series, 5 to Thrive by Elsa Velasco-Paul and Michael Paul, who together founded the M&E Group. My name is Scott Levine, and I'm the membership manager here at the IEEE Computer Society. Each month, we host a webinar on vital business skills that will help you excel at your current job and be helpful at your next job and throughout your career. Topics will cover tips on how to succeed, like today's topic, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and finding mentors, to name a few. Before we get started, I'd like to address some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive an email tomorrow, which will include a copy of the slides and the recording. You can ask any questions in the Q&A box you see on your screen. If possible, please reference the slide your question refers to. Elsa and Michael will answer as many questions as they can following the presentation. The IEEE Computer Society is here to help you thrive in the workplace as you continue to navigate throughout the changing corporate landscape. We provide various opportunities to connect with professionals from all over the world, such as our technical communities and our student and professional chapters. We provide resources from career building, such as our jobs board, featuring numerous open positions in the United States and resources that can get you closer to your dream job. Additionally, you can access up-to-date career advice from computing experts by visiting our tech news blog. More information will be shared after the webinar, and you can always learn more at computer.org. Circling back today to today's topic, how would you like to discover the secrets to making your work experience impactful, more fulfilling, and simply a smoother ride? Today, you'll learn how the five how-tos that will give you the upper hand in workplace essentials such as communication, assertiveness, the need to experience empathy, and understanding your personal value. Plus, learn the tried and true time management techniques that really work. As mentioned, joining us today is Elsa Velasco-Paul and Michael Paul, founders of the M&E Group. Starting with Elsa, who will be leading the majority of today's talk, she and Michael established the M&E Group in 1997. Elsa also serves as the International Customer Experience Manager for the Crosby Group. She also conducts corporate training, teaching, and providing her expertise on numerous areas like today's topic: personal branding, solutions thinking, and productivity habits, to name a few. Similar to Elsa, Michael Paul spends a lot of his time as an educator, teaching various subjects to corporate employees and entrepreneurs alike. He instructs on brand identity, brand management, and brand reputation, as well as online presence and optimization. He also consults with many small businesses and advises on revenue growth strategies, including lead generation and conversion through cutting-edge and effective online strategies. We thank you both for being here today, and Elsa, I turn the floor to you to get us started.
Thanks, Scott, and hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 to Thrive. We are so excited to have you here. And for those of you that have been with us together in other workshops, we're going to work this session a little bit differently. What we're going to do today is a campfire. You've probably done this before, but for those of you that are new to the concept, a campfire is a rapid fire, no pun intended, more relaxed gathering of a sort of friends, and it's going to be filled with those secrets, the kind of generational knowledge that is being passed down from one generation to another. So because you folks are my friends, we, Mike and I, are going to be sharing with you those secrets to thriving in areas like communication, assertiveness, awareness, and overcoming the horrific imposter syndrome. And we're going to tie it super, super nicely with time management tactics and the tools, the best of the absolute best. Welcome aboard, super, super friends. I am Elsa Velasco-Paul. Like Scott said, I am the co-founder of the M&E Group, and I am thrilled to be sharing this time with you. Wow, what a phenomenal week you guys have been having, huh? By the way, great job, IEEE Computer Society. And that's exactly why we are here. We're here thanks to a wonderful 3+ year partnership with incredible people, absolutely incredible people. And we're talking people like, thank you so much, Scott, Michelle, Eric, Carrie, the coach. I love working with you folks. You folks are amazing, absolutely amazing. And behind the scenes, like we were saying, we have co-piloting this plane, the other half of the M&E group, and you guessed it, that is the phenomenal Michael Paul. Mike is going to be taking care of your questions, so please don't hesitate. Throughout the session, it's going to be a very hands-on session. So if that is the case, what I want you to do is I want you to make sure and take care of any questions, type them there. Keep working on all your questions. And if Mike can answer it, he's going to do that. And if there's a question, he's going to put it over to me and I'll address it as we go. Okay? I don't want you to hold them all to the end because I don't want to miss them. With that being said, Mike is going to go pretty fast and furious with the tech side, so make sure that you get a pen and paper for that. All of these campfire topics have a common denominator, and that is people. People, just like, you and me. We're going to unpack all of this in a bit, but before this, you know what's coming, right? Yeah. Exactly that. Yes. What we're going to be talking about today is exactly this, the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is this is the part where I tell you that before you share some of this content, just because this is exclusively ours and some of it is not, just let us know. We always love to partner with you on your next project, so just reach out. Before you use it, come talk to us because we love working with friends. So just let us know. Hang on, before we move on, and because, like we said, this material is super tailored to my audience, I want to know who do we have here because that will allow me to adapt it as we go. So, Scott, is this a good time to put the poll out there? Great, thank you. All right, so what you have there is I just want you to click and tell me what stage you are in your career. So if you're a student, either if you're working, just pick what are you doing or what's most important for you, right? So just pick student, even if you're working, if that's what's really more important in your life. If you're a manager or supervisor, you get the gist. And we're going to do this, let's say 45 seconds. I think you folks are super quick, so we'll be able to take care of that. Thanks, Scott.
Elsa, did we lose you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Sorry about that. All right. Scott, are we good? Do we have enough answers by now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. All right. All right. I love this. I love this. Okay, so we have a great mix here. And let me tell you why. So for my team leads and, oh, wait a minute. This is so cool. For my others, hey, my retired crowd, great job. Great job. You've totally earned it. So awesome. And I so congratulate you for being here. So hooray. For my directors, managers, and my team leads, pay a lot of attention because I have something super cool on the assertiveness side, very important, so that you can mentor the folks that are coming after you. Succession is super, super important. For my up-and-coming supervisors and team leads, active listening skills. This is going to change your life. This is something that I super, super wish somebody had told me when I started my career. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And let's get this started. All right. One of the key things when we talk about communication is that communication, most of us know, it's a process, right, in which there's a lot of information. But what is key about information is that this information has to be, number one, exchanged between individuals through a common system, number one. Number two, it has to be a system that people share, and this can be symbols, signs, behavior. It can be speech, words, emails, sites, charts, you name it. It can be body language, gestures, even the pitch of your voice and your tone. For example, it's not the same to say good morning versus to say good morning. That's a difference. That's communication, right? All of these communication forms goal have one single thing, and that is to transfer information to produce greater understanding. And this is important because just giving information to somebody, even if that information doesn't land, is not communication. Does that make sense? Since we have content regarding the vocal side of communication, and you're going to see that afterwards when we talk about assertive communication, on this section, we're going to talk about a part that not a lot of people talk because, to be honest, it's just not that sexy. And it's really, really important because this is where a lot of us have a lot of issues, and it's really, really difficult to correct afterwards. We're going to talk about the thriving secrets for making emails pop and making emails really, really work for you. And I'm going to give you the secret sauce right from the get-go. Write this down. You ready? Pause. I'm dead serious. Pause. And we're going to talk about this on and on. And you're going to see it right in a bit. From the get-go, all emails, regardless of what the style is, informative, confidential, informal, whatever it is, they have to follow what we call the 6 C's, right? So the first one, they have to be clear. And clear means they have to focus on one topic or one goal. That is, what is it that you want to convey? And see that I'm talking about only one. And that one goal, make it easy to understand. I think it's very, very important that it's considerate and courteous. We want to take the audience into consideration. So not only what is your audience's interest, but also what is your audience's viewpoint? What are their problems? And what is the audience's intention of being there with you reading this email? Once you have that in mind, then stay positive, stay polite, and please, especially in these times, stay respectful. Stay concrete. And I think that most of us do this unintentionally. So be clear, be specific, and once you do that, support every single one of your ideas with specific facts and figures. But please don't overdo it. And while we're at it, let's get correct. Be correct with your data, with your grammar, with your format, with your language in the level. I am one that I used to do this in the very beginning. I would be way over the heads of people, and that doesn't serve any purpose. You know, getting too much jargon in an email is the same thing. We want our audience to feel smart when they read our emails, and that's a good secret. Once your email lands, it's because your audience reads it, they understand it, and they feel compelled to respond to it quickly. So do your homework and make sure that you understand who you're writing to, what is their interest, and what is the best way that you can communicate with them. For those of us that you have a little bit of issues with grammar because, number one, we just don't like writing, or number two, English is not our first language, let me give you a hint. Grammarly, yeah, Grammarly. Go online, type it in. Grammarly is your best friend. It's probably the best thing you'll do in your life. And of course, be concise. Deliver your message using the least number of words possible. So read again that sentence. If you can delete some words, go ahead and do it. Deliver the main idea first, substantiate, then reconfirm. That's it. And complete. Include the batteries. You know, those toys that then you have to go and buy the batteries? That's a nuisance. The same thing happens with emails. All the facts, put them on there. Leave no questions and answer in the audience's minds. Please, please, no canyons. Make sure the audience understands what you want. Like we said before, communication happens in so different modes, right? Verbal and written. And why would we send an email then? Well, number one, email is fantastic because it serves for documentation purposes. And number two, email is fantastic when we have the luxury of time for it. So when do I send an email? Depends on how much time you have to wait for an answer. Think about this. When you have more than a day to spare to wait for an answer, perfect. If you have less than that, forget it. That's the rule of thumb. There's also going to be a correlation between personalized and efficiency with regards to communication forms. And email is not going to be extremely efficient, but it's going to be super personalized because when I do a one-on-one, I can make sure that I target the information. But when I include a lot of people, and we're going to be talking about those pesky CCs where we copy everybody in the cat, that's when I can lose focus on that. So just make sure that you're aware of who you're writing to. Now, quick rule of thumb, if you have less than 30 minutes, make sure that you do not send an email. If you have 2 hours or so, text, and you have all kinds of messaging systems. A whole business day to get the information, then go ahead and send a message via chat. As long as you know that the person that you're sending this chat habitually checks their chat platform. Only when you know your deadline allows you to wait for more than 2 days or so, that's when I would go and send a very concise, single-purpose email with a deadline saying I would like to have a reply, or if I don't hear from you within 2 hours, 2 days, whatever, I will understand that this is okay. That's when you send an email, okay? All right, so let's talk about what works, okay? These are email's best practices. Number one, imagine this is happening to you. You're at your desk, typing away, boom, your phone rings. You pick up, and it is Mike. And Mike is your boss. That's why it's important. And Mike calls you and tells you that he needs an answer from George in accounting on Project Enterprise. My fellow Trekkies, let's get excited. Shout out to you. And this is specifically on that area that you and George are collaborating. You say, no problem, boss. I'll get this message and I'll get an answer and an update to you by end of day. You hang up and you start typing that email. After you start typing that first sentence, you stop and you do a super deep sigh. You do that because you know it's going to take an act of God for George to reply. That in at least 4 emails, because everybody in the company knows that George will not dignify your email with a reply. All right. If that's the case, hold on. Why in the name of all that is good and holy are you sending an email? Seriously, pause. Think about this. Okay, we know that Mike is your boss, so that's why you do have a sense of urgency. You have to go ahead and send this email and get an answer. You also know that George doesn't do email. You also know that George is a grown-up and you're not going to change his behavior. Let's get this off the table. You also know that it's wrong, but you're not going to change that. Then your audience, aka George, is not going to respond to your email. So what do you need And how do you adapt to it? Well, here's another way we could address this. In this case, this seems pretty urgent. Would you agree? What I would do is, how about we give George a call first? Because that way, maybe George is more like a phone guy or a person guy. And nicely ask him about updates and tell him, hey, George, my boss, Mike, is asking about this. Can you help me so that I can update him on behalf of both of us? And as he's talking, write down what he's saying and let him know that that's what you're doing. Then repeat back to him to make sure that you got what he's saying correct. Let him know that you're going to be repeating on an email what he said, and that you're going to be replying back to your boss, Mike, copying him. He's going to agree, and then 5 minutes, you're going to confirm the information is correct, copying your boss, Mike, and updating him on the project. 10 minutes later, email is done, nicely wrapped, George is happy, boss is happy, all is done. Friends, pause is going to be your best friend. Think before you type. Another great idea is make sure you always address a single idea per email. One of the main reasons why people don't reply to emails is because they get overwhelmed. We have too many questions, too many requests in one. And whenever you send an email, confirm, number one, that this information needs to be shared. Very important. You have no idea how many times we send information that should not be documented or should not be put on paper, as in this is just information that was venting. And number two, that this information needs to be documented. There are times that this is just, let's go out to lunch. Why are we sending an email for that? That's chat, or that's a call, or that's a text. Be purposeful or be mindful. Be mindful in the sense that if this is information that needs to be put out there, does it matter for the person that is receiving it? And while we're at it, be brief and polite in recognition of people's time. Time right now is so expensive. And when we're not clear with our encounters, we become an expense that other people can't afford. And again, that's a reason why a lot of people are not replying to your emails. They see your name, oops, that goes to the bottom of the pile. If you want them to reply to you, do the same. Return the favor. Acknowledge emails for no other reason that you like your emails to be acknowledged, and do it promptly. Do so. So get together a system to make sure that nothing goes through the cracks. If you do get copied a lot, like I do, make a clear rule, with your team of when you'll reply. So for example, when I need to be, when I'm copied and my team wants me to reply, they put on their action needed, or when it's just letting me know, they just put on there no action needed. That allows everybody to know the clear rules of the game. We talked about the include the batteries, right? We want to make it easier for the reader to know all the information and make a decision, agree with you or disagree, or frankly, continue including information for you for your project. And very, very important, change that apologetic language. That means get comfortable with changing sorry for a more empowering language. If you find yourself saying sorry more times than you like, this is a fantastic tip for you. So instead of saying, sorry for my late reply, or sorry that I missed this, change it for, thanks for catching that, or thanks for waiting for me, or thanks for including that attachment. That is a game changer. And the intention behind it is still the same, but it really makes a lot of sense. And I don't know that I can insist on this enough. Proofread. There is not a single reason on a time like this with so many apps out there to not have great text on there for grammar, veracity, and tone. When I talk about tone, that also includes that negative statements that they're not offering alternates, something like that never happens, or we can't do that. Number one, as an attorney by training, never and always are horrific words. That is very, very difficult for it to be true. And number two, when we have words like we can't do that, that is a huge turnoff for anybody else that is reading it. If you can't do it, then offer a solution or offer an interpretation, or just simply explain why you are encountering a difficulty in this. At the bottom of the day, think about this. If your email was put on a billboard wherever you work, would you be okay with other people reading it? That's the proof. Okay, think about it. If this was put in a billboard, am I going to be okay with people reading it? There you go. Now you get it. That's how you're going to know if this is cool or not to send. Okay, now let's talk about the dark side of the email. See, I'm trying to appease my Star Wars fans too. There you go. On the other hand, oh my goodness, the first one is cramming. We get excited and then we start putting everything in the kitchen sink in a single email. And like we said, it's too much information. It's information overload. People just get overwhelmed and they either reply to the very first one or to the very last request in the middle gets completely forgotten, or even worse, it gets read and it never comes back to be addressed. Or being too vague about your request. Think about this. You should always have an action, a call to action. What do you want people to do? And be clear. So when you type your email, go back and say, where is my request? Where can I read exactly what I want you to do? So please reply to, or please let me know what is it that you want them to do. I'm very, very sensitive to this one. Unprofessional taglines, quotes, and font. Cue here, Comic Sans. I accept, unless you are in third grade and you're a teacher and you need to appease third graders, you should not be using Comic Sans. I'm sorry. If you're a fan of Comic Sans, hats off to you. But in a professional setting, it really doesn't have it. Some companies are actually very sensitive. They want you to use their own font. So please abide by that. Taglines that are personal to you but have nothing to do with the business have no place in the business. Leave that for your personal use. Okay. That's something. And the same with quotes. Okay. I love dogs, for example, but I'm not going to have my dog quotes or taglines on my personal email, on my professional email. Whenever we start sending urgent emails all the time, we become Chicken Little. Nobody pays attention to our emails anymore because we become noise. So please be very careful. And sending words in caps, even if it's in the subject line or in the middle of a sentence, like, please respond, that is the equivalent of shouting. That's disrespectful. Let's just not do that, all right? And the same, if it was too in anger, having a tone that's a bit too casual, even if you are very familiar with your boss, remember that email doesn't have a voice, so it's very easy to be misinterpreted, okay? Just be careful with that. Email that is a bit too formal can also seem a little bit odd. You know, what's going on with you? Why are you doing this? The also one that I think is just has no place is passive aggressive. And passive aggressive also refers to the ellipses at the end. Like, when are you going to reply to this? ... Please, we're grown-ups here. Let's not do that. I'm not a fan of the cloak and dagger. And incomprehensible emails, the ones that you put everything on there. Your sentence has 16 lines. There's not a period anywhere. Nobody understands what you want. So people just start talking about you, saying that you blab and delete. That's what happens to your email. That's why nobody is replying. Sorry, friend, but somebody had to tell you that. So let's look at some examples. You guys ready? You want to see what it looks like? Okay, I'm going to introduce you to my friend. I love Nick. I love him. He's a hoot outside of work. He is. But he's unique. Let's say that. And Nick is actually from Boston. Let me show you why. Here he is. This is his email. And I'm going to give you folks a little bit of time so you can see it. I think it's a great email in the sense that it's he has some information there. Obviously, there's room for improvement because this is the original email, right? And you can see that Nick is talking to his boss, and Ollie, he's the customer service manager, and he has a subject line. He addresses his boss as, "Hey, boss." Interesting choice of words. He says, "I saw you called. I was busy in the kitchen. Did you see the Pats game yesterday?" Yes, he's from Boston, all right. And he continues to talk about the game. Interesting, considering this is a work email. He was talking about a customer, and he's complaining about it. And I don't know how I feel about that sentence. "I have nothing for you." Then he talks about purchasing, that apparently they're not on their ball game. He makes sure to address that he doesn't like the phone. Oh my goodness. Well, he lets us know that he's gonna be busy at lunch, doesn't he? And he ties it nicely with a later. How about that? All right, all right. Okay, let's see how this looks like. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is the red lines, or what we think it could be corrected. And let's see what are those corrections. So the very first one that we see here is, look at this. Absolutely. Why is he CCing everybody? What's with that? He even has Iron Man. He has, oh my goodness, even the Reuters guy, Nemo. What's up with that? The second one that he has is why the descriptive subject. We want to make sure that his boss knows why he should be looking at this email. The "you called" and in caps, that is a no-no in my book. Too informal or too formal, those are no-nos as well. Even if you are great friends with your boss, just remember, email doesn't have a voice, and it can be misinterpreted very, very easily. And then, of course, the TMI. Why are we talking about the game? That's a chat conversation. That's an offline conversation. And we continue to blame others in an email. That adds nothing to the conversation. It shouldn't even be here. For him to say that he's not a phone guy, well, that's part of his job. So again, it adds nothing to the conversation, and it just says that there's a lack on his side. And the kicker, he needs a signature. How does his boss know? Even if it was an outside person, how would this person know how to connect with him? So there's a lot of things. Let's see how this would be improved. You guys ready? Okay, let's look at this. What a relief. Oh my goodness, I love this. I love this. Look how well put together and how concise it is. Nick is gonna love this, and Ollie is gonna be so excited because boom, he can take care of this. And the best thing is he is giving him answers. We have a beautiful descriptive subject, so he knows what he needs to be talking about, and probably he's gonna check this email very, very quickly. We have a respectful name. I love it. And he talks about the consideration. He even addresses what the issue is. He gives him some good results. He's talking about the condition of the situation. He says what he's going to do about it, and he gives a continued consideration about him. He closes it up by saying what he's going to do about it, and the bow tie, this is how you can contact me. If it's in an office environment where you work with the same person every day, I know it seems a little bit redundant, but let's say that this was an outside person, we would probably forget to add that contact method. So let's make it a habit to just always, always, always have our contact information there. All right? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, perfectly. So now that we have cleared this up, are you guys ready? Now that Nick is amazing, I think that Nick sounds assertive. Don't you guys think? Assertiveness is such a thrown around word, isn't it? And what's interesting is the latest research, I think, from early this year showed that in a recent survey held by, I think it was 2000 or 2,500 upper level managers of Fortune 500 companies, one of the top most dreaded feelings was the being invisible in a room. And that was somebody expressing themselves, giving out an idea in an upper level management meeting, and either hearing crickets or being actively dismissed by someone else. Some of these folks responded by lashing out, being upset about it and saying something, whereas others just did the disappearing in the background. Whatever the response was, this feels awful, absolutely awful. In your head, you start replaying the scene, days later or that same night, saying what you should have said or even doing what you should have done. In your head, you feel stronger. You're so confident. You're so put together. That person, that in your head, that is the assertive person that we're going to talk about. The best news is that, number one, that person is there. And number two, that person is just waiting to be let out. And we are going to help you just do that. Assertiveness, number one, is that quality of being, like we said, self-assured and confident without being aggressiveness. And that is key. And it's a skill, great news, that can be learned, and it is a mode of communication. Dorland's Medical Dictionary defines assertiveness as a critical life skill. Assertiveness lives and is flexed like a muscle, and it grows when we interact with others. It's expressed in our communication, and that's why we're going to see a studio in a little bit so that you can see a pretty interesting component of it. Communicating assertively means clearly and calmly expressing what we want without either being too passive or too aggressive. So learning to communicate assertively doesn't guarantee that we're going to get our needs met, but it is going to make it more likely, and it can improve our relationships with other people. So what are the key words here? Control, confidence, and positiveness. So what does this look like? Well, good question. It's not easy all the time to identify really good, truly assertive behavior, because assertiveness can often and is often confused with aggressiveness. And I'm sure you've seen it, and especially Hollywood loves to present it that way. They present the assertive person as the aggressive, as the bull, as the tiger in the room. That's not true. Assertiveness is balance. That's the number one thing. And it's going to require, number one, being very others in that same sense. We talked about this being honest about what we want and what we need, but it also considers the rights and the needs of others. When we're assertive, we are self-assured. We're confident, but we're drawing power from this need, from this knowing of ourselves to get our point across very firmly, very openly, very firmly, and with empathy. Because we know what we want, we don't need to manipulate others. That's off the table. But we also don't need to be aggressive with others. Aggressive behavior is completely different because in this sense, I want to win. That's it. And the way that I do this is by putting my interest on top of anybody else's, with no regards to the rights, the needs, or the feelings of anybody else. When I'm being aggressive, the power that I'm drawing is based on myself. I'm being selfish. So I'm going to be perceived as pushy. I can even be perceived as being bullying, and what I want is what I want. For example, when I take something either by not asking, I'm being aggressive. When I ask for something, but I'm not waiting for an answer, I'm still being aggressive. When I ask for something and I actively wait for an answer, but I still stand my ground and reiterate my needs in a firm way, good job. I'm being assertive. Does it make sense a little bit? For my managers, remember you folks, I told you at the beginning, okay, heads up. Assertive managers are awesome. They're fantastic because these folks communicate what they want and what they need in a super easygoing, clear way. And they're also super confident. Frankly, it's so easy upon mental health, and they're fantastic to work with. Some of the great benefits of that is, number one, they treat people with fairness, with respect. And of course, often they get treated the same way. Another great benefit of it is that they negotiate successful win-win solutions because they are able to recognize the value of their opponent's position. They can also see the common ground with both of them. People that are assertive are better doers and problem solvers. Again, because these people feel empowered to do whatever it takes to find the best solution to the problems that they encountered. It's very common that assertive people are less anxious and stressed because, again, they're self-assured and they don't feel stressed or victimized by the things that didn't go as planned. People that are assertive, when they want something, they said yes. When they're not satisfied about something, they said no. So they maintain healthy boundaries. I don't want to make this look like it's super easy. It's not. But it is absolutely possible. Just like a muscle, we work on it. So if your disposition or workplace tends to be a little bit more passive-aggressive or aggressive than assertive, it's a good idea to work on the following areas to help you get that balance right. So number one, value yourself and your rights. So to be more assertive, you need to gain a good understanding of yourself, and that is key, as well as a strong belief in your inherent value and your value to your organization and your team, so you can stand up for yourself. Always voice your needs and your wants confidently, and remember the language that we were talking about in the email. Use it here. So don't wait for someone else to recognize what you need. You might wait forever. Take the initiative and start to identify the things that you need now, then set the goals so that you can achieve them. While you're at it, acknowledge absolutely that we can't control other people's behaviors, and that's okay. So don't make the mistake of accepting responsibility for how other people react to your assertiveness. If they get angry or resentful towards you, you know what? Try to avoid reacting to them in the same way, and that's okay. That's them. Try to express yourself in a positive way as much as possible. It's a habit. Most of us are used to being used to the negative language, like, oh my goodness, it's a crazy day. Get yourself into the habit of changing that. It's important to say what's on your mind, even when you're in a difficult or negative issue to deal with, but change it, or try to get yourself to a place where we do that in a constructive and sensitive manner. That is going to change so much your life. And we're going to talk this in a little bit in the last two sections. And this might be rough, but be open to criticism and compliments, because when we accept both positive and negative feedback graciously, humbly, and positively, we really learn how to get better, and we learn to interact with others much better. And while we're at it, learn to say no. I mean it. By just saying a yes person, it doesn't make you any better, or it doesn't make you grow better as a person. So what are those key things that helps you communicate assertiveness? Well, whenever people get personal, because it's going to happen, and somebody's going to attack your character, just remember one thing. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. And number two, not everyone who criticizes your work has the credentials to do so. So now that we said that, there's a couple of simple but super effective communication techniques that I mentor a lot of people with that I'm going to share with you. The I statements. I love these. Use things like I want, I need. Things like, I feel strongly that we need to bring in somebody else to mediate this disagreement, or I need this report at the table by 2 p.m. this afternoon. While we're doing these statements, make sure that you have empathy mixed in together. So always try to recognize and understand how the other person views the same situation. Then, after taking their point of view into consideration, express what you need from them. If it's still not working, don't be afraid to escalate. You might have to do that, and that means becoming firmer, still polite and respectful, but it might taking it to somebody else, or it might even mean taking it to HR. Just be comfortable with it. At some times, we just need more time, either because we get flustered, either because we just need more time to process what the question is or get the right answer, or simply because we're not in the right state of mind to deal with that. Be comfortable too, and be honest and tell the person that you need a few minutes, a few days to compose your thoughts. It's okay. It's okay to ask for more time. And we talked about changing our verbs, right? So instead of using words like could or should, use will. Instead of need or would like to, use want. That is going to make a big difference. I believe in being a broken record, and being a broken record means prepare the message that you want to convey and repeat it so that people know that you insist. So for example, you say, I can't take any more projects at this time. And if it's a colleague that's saying that, and they say, yeah, I know, I understand, but can you help me with this one? Say, no, I understand that you need more help with this one. I can help you once I finish this one, but at this time, I cannot take any more projects. Just be comfortable with repeating that. And my last one is the what, how, when, and what. And that one is just in your mind, and you might have to write it down. Whenever you need to be assertive, to clear up and to be sure that you are very concise, describe the event, your feelings, your needs, and the consequences. So it's gonna look something like, if you do this, we're going to be in a good position to happen this, and this would be a good year-end bonus for all of us. The being assertive at the end of the day is all about, again, balance, because being very, very passive, not being assertive enough, or being very aggressive, angry or hostile, it doesn't work either. Balance, being that right place where you sense the strong sense of yourself, your value, but also acknowledging what others' values is and their needs, it's perfect, and it really, really, really works. It's not probably going to happen overnight, but the more that we practice these techniques regularly, they're going to slowly build up the confidence and that self-belief that you need to become assertive. Remember that person in your head that was being confident and put together? Well, that person is going to come out, and you're going to be so amazed when you hear yourself doing and saying those things that you wish you had said. So let's look at that studio that we were talking about. In assertiveness, there's one aspect that very few people talk about, and that is assertiveness in space, okay? And I am going to show you exactly right now. Scott, can you guys see the video right now?
Yeah, want me to play that for you?
Yes, please. Okay, what you folks are going to see right now is a video, and we have 3 individuals. This is a work setting, and assertiveness in space means taking up your space, and it's super, super subtle. Taking space means understanding the cultural and the personality sensitivities just by my wonderful lady in the back pushing herself forward just a little bit. She would be asserting her place in space. And that simple tweak does wonders. So just be aware that asserting yourself in space is a tip that probably no one will ever tell you, but it's going to make a huge, huge difference. There you go. Another campfire secret for you. All right. Wonderful, wonderful. I know that we're getting a lot of questions here. And thank you, Mike, so much. I can see you're extremely busy. All right, Mike, are you ready?
I am ready. Can you hear me?
I don't think so.
No, we heard you, Mike.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thanks, Elsa, for that transition. Good morning, everyone, from sunny Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thanks, Scott, for the earlier introduction. I normally am the guy behind the scenes, but as Elsa said earlier, sometimes I do come out of my cave and say a few words, so here I am. Thank you, IEEE Computer Society, for the invitation to speak into the lives of your constituency. I am honored to do so, and I do not take the opportunity lightly. So we're moving along here in minutes, so I'm going to rush through some principles on the phrase time management. I want to talk about this incredibly cliche, almost nauseating subject called time management. We've all heard this before a million times, and we all have access to a billion time management resources, but it continues to be an issue. And therefore, it continues to be something that we speak about. It's an almost unsolvable phenomena around the world. Why is this? I was thinking about it earlier in preparation for this, and I find that it's quite similar to weight loss. Both are massive markets, time management and weight loss. Both have uber resources available, but they both plague us all as unresolved, and both cause issues in our personal and professional lives. I personally find that fascinating. The term itself, or the phrase itself, time management, really is a misnomer. We can't manage time, though I think we all can agree that we do manage the events in our lives relative to time. We may often wish for more time, but all of us only get the typical 24 hours, the 1,440 minutes, or the 86,000 seconds each day. How we, that is you and I, use, or shall I say, control that time depends on skills that we've learned through our lives, through self-analysis or self-reflection, planning, evaluation, those types of things. Self-control for sure. But much like money, time is both valuable and limited. I'd say even more so than money. It also must be protected. We must think about how we're using our time, use it wisely. But here's the thing, we also must budget our time. So let me back up for a minute. I've been saying the phrase time management, the word management. The fact is that management is entirely the wrong word. Quite possibly that word can be the very reason and the very foundation from which a multi-billion-dollar industry was created around this subject of time management. You know as well as I that there is bestseller book after bestseller book after bestseller book written and published around time management. It's fascinating. Just go to a bookstore and look at the prime real estate racks as soon as you walk in. Or if you're a student, go to the business section of your bookstore and voila, you will see thousands of pages written about tips and tricks on how to change your life by managing your clock. It's amazing. We, as M&E Group, are here today to not sell another tip or trick. We don't have a book written about time management. But I do want to submit a theory today about our time and how we spend it. Here it is. It's not time management. It's not about management. It's about time control. It's a shift in our mindset. We are continually sold a false premise that we must manage time, almost as if time rules us or we are subservient to some clock. No. Shift your mindset to where you realize that you have 100% control of your clock. The word management kind of covertly just messes with our minds and then our ensuing actions. It suggests that we must shift and adjust our actions to the almighty second, the almighty minute, and maybe even the almighty hour. I tell my kids this, I say, don't let life happen upon you, you happen upon life. In other words, maximize your control. Similarly, as I speak to you today, don't let the time you have happen upon you. You happen upon your time. Be intentional about your time control. You're the boss of your time. Now act like it. For those that are familiar with Dave Ramsey and his approach to budgeting money, he has excellent advice when he advocates for what he calls a zero-based budget. In other words, he instructs us to name every dollar. Every dollar has a name, he says. That way, in the very process of naming, we are taking control. We are telling it where it will go and not allowing it to be spent to our detriment. So in today's context, as we talk about quote unquote time management and some other things, just substitute the word dollar for minute or hour. Budget your time. Name every minute or hour. That's how you control time. There. That's it. I'm not going to go into any more details here, but we do have an entire seminar that we do on what we call time control. Perhaps that can be something later. It's no secret, and it's well publicized and well written about, that people who practice good time control techniques often find that they are more productive. They have more energy for things they need to accomplish. They feel less stressed. And as I'm going through this list, think about the parallels between budgeting money and budgeting time. The feelings that I'm describing here and the things that are advantageous to these budgets are congruent, and they're parallel between time and money. They have more free time to do things they want. They get more things done. A budgeted time person and a budgeted money person are also more positive to others. They get along with more people easier. They feel better about themselves. So finding a time control strategy that works best for you depends on your personality, maybe your ability to self-motivate, or maybe your level of self-discipline. But all of these things impact what we call productivity. So let's just shift a bit and chat about, or realize some comments about productivity, which can arguably be an output of the well-planned time control. So Paul Meyer, a famous author, talks about productivity as never an accident. It's always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. It's intentional. So staying focused on productivity allows us to prevent the quote unquote being busy to stay busy. You know, sometimes we can be busy doing nothing or doing the wrong things at the wrong time. In other words, we're just unproductive. The root cause here is not naming your time. So let's chat real quick about what hurts our productivity. Now, when we talk about this, we can't place all of the blame on our gadgets, our devices, our coworkers, and many other factors are just as responsible as technology for distractions. When asked a sample size of employers what hurts their employees' productivity the most, the top 5 productivity killers came about. I'm going to list them from least impactful to most. The first one, speakerphones, conversations, and smells. How about that? Have you ever sat in your cube in the office and all of a sudden somebody microwaves popcorn and up goes your head and you start sniffing it and into the kitchen you go. Got to have some of that. Or somebody stops by your cube and starts a conversation and you put down your mouse or whatever and you carry on for 5 or 10 minutes. Happens all the time. The next one is unnecessary meetings. How many times do we have a pre-meeting for a meeting, and then we meet, and then we have a post-meeting to talk about what was actually said during the meeting, and then we have a wrap-up meeting, and then finally a presentation to the client, perhaps. It's insane. How about inefficient emails and internet usage disguised as multitasking. We're thinking we're doing something wonderful. I'm multitasking. I'm doing multiple things at once. Well, it's quite inefficient. How about number 2, personal use of phones and email? I think the statistic here in the US, at least, is that we check our phones every 97 seconds or something like that. Amazing. That is an absolute distraction. And finally, the number 1 cause of productivity killing is internet sites. Internet sites, whether we go on to the local barbecue joint or restaurant during lunchtime and look at the menu, or we're on Amazon or whatever we're doing, it's internet sites. Do these findings surprise anybody? Does anyone have any others they would like to share? Just put them in the Q&A. I'd love to collect those data points. Okay, let's go into tactics now. Time control tactics. So I think the number 1 thing to do is to develop some type of time log that is personal to you. In a few minutes, I'm going to review some of the best apps out there for time control, logging, budgeting. It's important, though, that it be personal to you. Do the hardest things first, really in the context of naming every minute, like we're talking about in this presentation, or naming every hour. That is controlling your time. Be sure to budget appropriately. Don't budget 20 minutes for something that will take 2 hours. I love this one. I think Elsa came up with this one. Vet the meeting size with a pizza. How many slices are in a pizza? 8. Don't invite more than 8 people to any meeting. It falls off a cliff from an efficiency standpoint. Use a pizza. Okay, review your work Friday and prep for Monday. This is an example of controlling your time and being intentional, incredibly effective, but for some reason we don't do it. It's like all of this is just word salad. Let's implement. Prioritize your schedule to reduce decision fatigue. We all know too many decisions causes us to feel overwhelmed. Use Pareto. It works. It's amazing. I don't know how the numbers check out, but they do. Do 20% of the action items that yield 80% of the productivity. All kinds of results come out of this, even personal, like endorphin and dopamine boosts. You feel good, you become more efficient, your energy rises. And there's others. I won't go into it for the sake of time, but manage your meetings appropriately, focus in the short term. Eating and your health, of course, are contributors to this. And then just start. Find a way to signal yourself to just start. Okay, let's look at some apps real quick. I'm going to briefly mention some of these, but for those that want URLs to these apps or advice around some of these apps, just let us know, but I'm going to zip through these pretty quick. The first one, Stay Focused, is a Chrome-based app. They do have a Chrome extension. You can select the websites within this app that are your biggest time wasters and then set the amount of time you're allowed on these sites during the day. Once you use up your allocated time, those sites will be blocked so that you can concentrate on working. But it doesn't only block websites. It does do subdomains. It blocks specific paths, specific pages, even specific in-page content, which is really interesting. Certain videos or images or gaming, it blocks as well. The next one is Self-Control. Oh, by the way, that one was free. This one, the Self-Control, is also free, and it's also a Chrome extension. It's a great way to really focus on the task at hand. It blocks access to a certain set of websites that you determine that you feel you spend too much time on. The next one is Rescue Time. This app is for kind of like a focus app at its core. It's a productivity tracker, but it includes features that also allow you to turn off distracting websites. Now, this has a kind of a light free plan. It also has an upgraded paid plan. You receive productivity reports on how much time you spend on different sites. The next one, I really love the name of this one. It's called Cold Turkey. If you need an app for Windows or Mac in this case, this is a really strict one, and it will keep you on task for sure, no matter how many times you say please. Cold Turkey is for you. It comes with a default distraction list of apps and websites, or you can customize it. You can even block the entire internet if you want. Number 5 is Clockify. I happen to use this one. This is a time tracking software. It's very, very popular. We actually, in addition to this consulting, we own a digital marketing business as well. We use this to track our billable hours, and it's outstanding. It is also free, but does have an upgrade as well. I think most of us probably know what Asana is, and I won't go through all of these. I'll just do a few more. Asana has a slant toward project management. Maybe it's you might call Trello its sibling. Asana is kind of Trello on steroids from a project management standpoint. Focus Booster, this is also free. It's lightweight. It's a Pomodoro app. If you don't know what that is, that's when you actually set a clock for a certain task. You might set a clock for 20 minutes to do this email, and then it shuts off your access to that task after that time slot that you allocated. Toggle Trap, I believe this one is a mobile base. I've not used this one. Time management app for automatic time tracking and seeing billable hours. And then Remember the Milk. This is an online to-do list and task management, automatic time tracking, and billable hours as well. So really, the point is this: whether you need a to-do list app to help you with task management, a website blocker to help you kind of resist the urge to let your mind wander, or even a sound app to create a great work environment for focus, choose one of these. And if you don't see one that you like, get a hold of us. We can recommend more. But use the tools that are at your disposal to help you control your time. And in summary, when I say control your time, that doesn't mean this is a forced willpower thing. Tools are available to help us do that. But please don't fall prey to we must succumb to the clock. No, don't manage your time. Control it. Nice speaking with you all. I'm going to give this back to Elsa so she can kind of land this plane and wrap up. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. I love that one. I'm pretty sure everybody was typing furiously. And thank you, Mikey. I love what you said. Video games. Oh, my goodness. Farm Village. I love that in relatives, especially working from home, right? And let's land and talk about the imposter syndrome. Oh, if there's something that people would rather not talk about, I think it's this one. And imposter syndrome from the get-go is that inner belief that we're inadequate, that we're mediocre. And it doesn't matter, even if we know and if it shows that we're extremely skilled, extremely accomplished, and extremely talented. And when I say show, you're going to see later on that we're talking about people that are famous. They too go through this. Imposter syndrome is probably my least favorite of all topics to discuss without coaching, just discuss. Not because I don't think it's important, it's because it's so human, and it's because I rarely find anyone that hasn't gone through this experience at some point in their professional or personal life. And I like to equate it to voices in your head that keep repeating over and over and over. It's like the proverbial monkey or the little demon on your shoulder telling you that you're undeserving of what you have achieved. And I have a riff with that. I don't think it's fair. It feels something like that, like undeserving of whatever you have achieved, feeling out of place despite all the signs that you are successful. It's questioning if you are the right person for the job, if you're a fraud, if you're fake, if you're guilty of being successful. It's absolutely real. It's an absolute hindrance to living life to the fullest. And to make it even more real, some of us in this webinar right now, we are going through it at this point. Let's do a poll. Scott, can we roll the poll right now? Great. So according to NCBI's 2021 survey, what is your guess of how many professionals experience imposter syndrome? What do you guys think? Either 20%, 35, 50, or 80%. What do you guys think? Let's do 30 seconds. You guys are ridiculously fast. And once you're ready, click submit, and then we'll see the results. Scott, when we have a good number, let me know so that I can see the results. Wow, you've got it. Yes, yes, yes. Isn't that awful? That is absolutely ridiculous. And it's almost like I don't know if you like the Avengers. This is Thanos for me. Um, you're right. More than 80% of adults experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. In fact, a lot of people go through it and they never get out of out of the syndrome. Imposter syndrome tends to be a lot more prevalent among high achievers because if only you first have to experience success in order to feel that your success was based on either luck or circumstance, or that someday soon people are going to see you for who you really are, like they're going to discover your dark secret. So why doesn't anybody talk about imposter syndrome out in the open, especially at work or something like that? Well, because imposter syndrome is often mistaken for self-doubt or a lack of self-esteem or anxiety or depression. And before we continue, just remember this is not medical advice. I'm just giving you some points of data. So please, if you need more advice, consult with your physician. Because of all of this, there's a lot of really incredible people out there, people like you, my dear friends, that don't feel worthy or good enough, despite that they are amazing. So here, we're going to focus on understanding the two sides of the coin, who we are, but we're also going to be putting in perspective who others are, because what we're going to do today, boom, in your face, imposter syndrome, we're debunking you today. You're going to let go of my friends. There's two types of imposter syndrome, right? And there's many different, but we're going to talk about 5, and you probably are going to be thinking of which ones you think you fall in, if you know somebody. The first one is the perfectionist, right? And the perfectionist is the one who thinks that they have to deliver perfect performances 100% of the time. They think people are watching me. Also, people can't be trusted. Therefore, my work, they check and check and check their work all the time. Before they send that email, they check and check and check. And after they send it, they have that thinking like, should I recall that email? The expert is different because the expert continuously rethinks, if I were really smart, I would already know everything there is to know about this. Why don't I know this? And the soloist on the other side, I call it the Lone Ranger, believes that their competence is equal to how many unassisted achievements they can do. I call it desperado too. If anybody helps me, that makes me less of a successful person. So they are the ones that they would rather go to work even if they are incredibly sick, but they won't take a sick day. They don't take vacation because that's who they are. That equals to them being less successful. The superhero, the superwoman, the superman equates to, if I were really competent, I would be able to do all of this well by myself. Shout out to some of my single moms, single dads, single parents. Some of them go through this thinking that, and society feeds on this, right? You should be able to do all of this. You don't need help from anybody else. Please don't. We all need somebody. And the mastermind, if you guys remember from Disney's, they judge themselves by the easiness and the speed to learn and execute tasks. So if they don't get it quick the first time, then they will die before they ask for somebody to explain something to them. So they go quickly to YouTube and hide even the searches that they're doing. They go on black mode so that nobody knows that they're trying to figure out something that was explained. So how are these signs that we're suffering from imposter syndrome, and not something else? Well, a good sign is we can't take compliments or praise. Thanks and compliments make us uncomfortable and awkward. You don't feel like we deserve that much attention, or we worry constantly. Both day and night, we worry. We're anxious. Did I make the right choice? What if they don't like my work? What if I misunderstood the assignment? I should have asked more questions. What if they're disappointed? Another one is we overwork ourselves. There's always just one more thing. I go on vacation and I have my phone open. I want to
check my email at 11 p.m. It's really never perfect, and I always want to go that extra mile, even if it's unnecessary, even if the boss says, please stop. My business has to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I always dwell in what I didn't do, so I have difficulty appreciating what I did do. I self-sabotage, and that also means, like, if I'm on a diet, I binge one day. If I am going to the gym, I stop going for a couple of days. If I did good work, things happen to that work. I don't believe that I'm good enough. I don't even bother to do my best. That also happens. I credit others for my work, so I always find that it's difficult to say thanks. I decline raises, and some other expressions of this is I have minimizing language. So I often say, this is not a big deal. Another person could have done this. So how can we overcome the imposter syndrome? Number one, let's acknowledge that imposter syndrome is common. We're not alone. We saw this. 80% of us go through this. So let's learn to reach out and be comfortable, because chances are that somebody else is going through it and they're just waiting for you to help out. And while we're at it, please, let's stop comparing ourselves with others. When we compare ourselves with another person, we're only seeing a sliver of their life right now, and it's probably a successful side. Same thing with what we see on TV. These are fixed lives. These are Photoshop lives, and it's not an equal comparison. So let's not do that. And we need to be comfortable outside of our comfort zone, because when we do that, we ensure that fear of failure goes out the window, because we learn that fear just helps us to keep us safe, but nothing else. We don't have to be afraid of fear in itself. And very important, especially in times of these, watch out what we're consuming. And I'm not talking about food or drink. I'm talking about what kind of conversations we're engaging, negative conversations, even listening to some types of news, some types of people that we hang around with. All those things count. So make sure that you're picking quality over quantity. And learning is going to take some failure, because that's how we know what doesn't work, right? So be comfortable with it. And you know what? Nobody really knows everything there is to know, so be okay with it. Continuously search for what is this thing, that little demon that is causing your imposter syndrome. And while you're at it, find out, what is it? Was it a one time that somebody said something? And then when you're there, find somebody, a therapist or somebody that you can talk about it, so that we can put this out in the light. Something that is great is journaling and reframing. So whenever you feel compelled to say, oh, this was not a good idea, or, oh, this was just luck, learn to rephrase those words by saying, instead of saying, oh, this was nothing, learn to say, thank you. I enjoy doing this work. Or when they say, hey, you're up for a promotion, say, thank you. Learn to rephrase so that you get comfortable. And by knowing you had a big part to play in where you are now, recognize yourself. That's a big component in you debunking the imposter syndrome. As I promised, what is another key component in the landing of today is empathy and awareness. I love this one. I love this one because empathy is amazing. Empathy is what makes us people, and it's what makes us all get together. And it's that capacity to feel each other's feelings. And it's not, oh, mushy, gushy, we're all going to hug together. That's not it. That's not it. Although if you want to, good for you. Empathy is a key component to emotional intelligence, and we have a fantastic webinar about that too. But it's a key strategic building block of trust and rebuilding block. It helps us understand and support each other and to being better. And sometimes feeling empathy is really tough because it's going to take strength, courage, vulnerability, but it's just going to take us to put our own biases on the side. I think that the key here is understanding the difference between empathy and compassion and empathy and sympathy. Whereas empathy is the ability to identify and understand another person's feelings, it evokes, number one, understanding. It implies that we understand the other person's situation. Compassion is geared more towards feelings of sympathy, pity, concern for the misfortune and suffering of the other person, right? So that's a different thing. It's going to evoke something like, I'm concerned about what happened to you. Compassion is not implying understanding of the other person's situation, but it does imply that I want to help you, right? On the other side, sympathy is very different because sympathy has a little bit of sorrow. It still has pity in it because of what happened to you, but I still don't understand your situation, right? What I have here is more sorrow, but empathy at the end of the day is the one that carries understanding and boom, engagement. That's why it's so, so awesome. So why is empathy so amazing? Well, because empathy, number one, it encourages altruistic behavior. It's what makes us amazing and better. It really is based on kindness, and it has been shown to increase not only cooperation and forgiveness, it also makes us to work together. And the key thing here is that it improves mental and physical health. Practicing these key components of empathy helps us understand and interact with people way, way better. And the great benefit, it can be learned. It strengthens relationships, and once we get better and better with learning empathy, it's going to decrease aggression and judgment, not only with others, but with ourselves. So for those of us that go through imposter syndrome, learning empathy is not only going to help others, it's going to make a huge difference for ourselves. And of course, as we go through this road of learning empathy, our mental and physical health, you're going to see the wonders it's going to do for your health of learning empathy. Just hang out with me for a little bit. So how do we do this, Elsa? You've sold me. How do I do this? Okay, let's find out. The first thing is, I want you to learn to cultivate curiosity. And what I mean this is, if we stay in the things that we know how to do, well, we're never going to stretch ourselves, and we're never going to know how to understand other people and how to be comfortable with things that are different. So that's what I mean. Cultivate curiosity is get outside of your comfort zone and find out, put your biases on the side, and see if you can engage with other people at where they are. So that means stepping out of your comfort zone. Receiving feedback is the one that's going to really stretch you out. Receiving feedback means not just receiving it, means don't react negatively, okay? And this is very, very key. Means humbly receiving it and then putting it in perspective so you can learn from it. And this is probably the best advice you'll ever get. Think of feedback as free advice or free coaching. A coaching session is $1,500. Every time somebody gives you good advice, it's $1,500 that somebody is giving you for free, okay? That's another way to see feedback. And examine your biases. We all have them. We all have them. So whenever you're listening to somebody, think of, what are the biases that I have here when I'm listening? And that is going to change the way you see it. Walking in the shoes of others also helps in this way of examining our biases. These stretch conversations is tied to cultivating curiosity. Think about it. If I've never been part of, I'm a dog person, and I've never been with people that go and watch birds, for example, would that make a difference? Or if I've never been part of the CrossFit group, would that make a difference? Of course it would. And that is how I stretch and become better with empathy. Joining a shared cause is different. It means, are there more people like me that I've never joined and been part of? And that is also going to make a very, very good difference in this case. How do we do this? Attentiveness is key, asking probing questions, clarification, paraphrasing, and being attuned to and reflecting on these feelings. That is going to make a fantastic, fantastic difference. All right, let's land this plane, friends. Let's land this plane. So what are the key takeaways for today? Number one, communication's goal is to foster greater understanding, right? So pause and listen, understand, and then react appropriately. Of course, personalize and adapt. Mike said it. Time control, those tactics and tools, they have to work for you. You don't work for them. And assertive communication is a learned skill. So take the time to learn it because it is so going to be worth it. And you know what? Today we punched it in the face. Imposter syndrome is pretty real and common, but it's going to be overcome. And we started today. And of course, stay connected. Stay connected and focus on the learning, because it is going to make a huge, huge difference. We scratch even the most successful people, and we're going to find that they suffer from imposter syndrome, issues with assertiveness. Let me give you an example. Paul McCartney, yes. He's, well, say no more. He wrote, he's part of Yesterday, right? And even he felt like an imposter. He said, you never think you're good. I should think about it. But he was still thinking, can I do it? Every time that he was going to write a song. The bottom line is that thriving in all these 5 aspects that we talked about is a multifaceted journey. And it's not a sprint. I don't want you to think about it like that. But it's not a marathon either. Marathon seems so exhausted. Thriving is a journey, and it's a wonderful one that we, you and I, we're going to make it a pleasant one. And hopefully, with some of these primer points that we shared today, we have enough information to get you folks, make sure that you have a fantastic ride. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Elsa and Michael. That was a great presentation, and I think there were a lot of great helpful tips and takeaways that everyone on here hopefully jotted down and could take with them. We are at the Q&A part of our session. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box you see on your screen. Elsa, or Michael, we're still waiting for some questions to come in. Any sort of final thoughts or things you want to add on as we wait for those first couple questions to come in?
Sure. I guess the key components that I wanted to emphasize is these are very trying times, and I want everybody to know that vulnerability is going to be your best friend. That's key. Number 2, keep reading about imposter syndrome and reach out to us. You'd be surprised. Every time that I do this seminar, we get flooded with people talking about it. It's great, but the more that we talk openly about this, we're going to make sure that this is not something that we talk in the shadows. It's impacting a lot of people, and mental health is something that we shouldn't be talking in the shadows. And yes, Michael, your list. Will you be sharing that list?
Yes, we'll be sending out a copy of the slides and the recording to this webinar tomorrow. So you'll get a copy of that, of the list.
You are most welcome, Kyle. Thank you.
I guess there are no questions today, Elsa and Michael. So I guess you guys did no. So yeah, I guess you guys just did a phenomenal job. I found it very interesting and insightful. So I think with that, we'll begin to wrap up this webinar. Before we do close out, I just want to know our upcoming webinar schedule. Next webinar from the Build Your Career webinar series will be Emotional Intelligence Part 2 by Adam Schmidt on April 27th. And the following day on April 28th, there will be a webinar on cybersecurity and critical infrastructure protection from our distinguished lecture webinar series. In the email you receive tomorrow, that will include a copy of today's slides and recording. You'll receive a link to register for these two upcoming webinars and a few of our webinars scheduled in May. There will also be a link to view Emotional Intelligence Part 1, which Adam gave in the fall of last year. Again, I would like to thank all of you for attending, and Elsa and Michael for being here today and sharing their valuable insight with us. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.